Hi, my name's A.J Nay, and I'm a professional stuntman. Thanks. What a rush. As I was saying, I'm a professional stuntman, and although what you saw may have looked easy, there was a great deal of planning and timing and precision. We're very fortunate to be able to shoot this video at Kim Kahana Stuntman School. I'd like to introduce you to the president and owner, Kim Kahana. How you doing, Kim?
How you doing, AJ?
Kim, this is a great facility. How many students can you accommodate?
Well, I can accommodate 30, but I only take 6 in each session.
Okay. What about, let's say, skill-wise? I mean, is there some kind of an agility test? These guys have to go through any kind of a, you put them through a test of any kind to...
No, I have an interview with them. I see where they're coming from. When they join the school, I give them about 1 week to back out of it. And I can tell almost immediately if this is the type of business for them or not.
Right. What about time? I mean, was there a certain time limit you got?
It's a 6 weeks. It's a 6-week probationary period, and it was set up by the state of California. This is the only school in the world that is sanctioned by the Department of Education of the state of California.
Right. What about cost? Is there a certain cost?
It's $2,500 for 6 weeks.
That's great. It's really a nice place. You've been a stuntman for a long time. You've got quite a background. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've been in the business 30 years. I started as an extra, went to a stuntman, to a stunt coordinator, to a second unit director, and now I'm producing and directing. But I got a break when I was doubling Charles Bronson and people like that, because in this business, if you look like someone, it's pretty, well, it's not easy, but it gives you a little foot in the door.
Sure, well, especially once you get tied in with them.
Right.
You get to know them, they like you, you actually become friends.
Right.
And you do a good job for them, and they want to keep you back on all their movies. Especially somebody like Charles Bronson, because he works a lot, so that's good.
But these kids have a hard time. There's no guarantee whatsoever that they'll ever get a job. You got to go out, you got to knock on doors. Sure. There's a lot of hard work, and people out there think that this is the easiest thing in the world. Come to a stunt school and you go to work. That's a bunch of BS. It can't be done.
Yeah, I know that. I know. I went through that myself. I've been in the business for 10 years, and it is a tough road. A lot of hardships, a lot of disappointments, but you just got to stay at it. If you really love it, it's something that you want to do.
Right. If you love it, yeah. And if I look at it this way, if a guy like me, I mean, I came from Hawaii and without any education, and if a guy like me can make it, anybody can make it, but it has to come from here, and you have to work hard. I mean, you don't go out and say you can do a 100-foot high fall when you can't. You learn your occupation, and that's what I want to do with these kids. I want them to be qualified.
Well, you're doing a hell of a job. I'll tell you, this is a really nice facility. Now, I know you have the outdoor facility. You also have an indoor facility to teach them to do spot tramps and different things like that. Is that true?
I have inside with trampolines and mats, and they work every day on that. And this outside stuff, like here we do horses and cars and everything else here.
Okay, now what about calisthenics? Do you teach, I mean, as far as like just rigging the body, as toughening up the body, do you do stuff like that?
Well, that's the first thing we teach. I look at it this way. Your body's going to take so many G's that you got to get the body working as a tool to do your stunts. And if you don't work on the body, and if you go out and drink and have dope and stuff like this, it doesn't help the body any.
That's true. That's very true. Well, Kim, thank you very much. It was really nice talking to you. We're going to be here a little while later doing some fights, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Thanks, Kim. Appreciate it. fun we've been having. One thing I did forget to do is introduce one of my best friends. He came out to help us out. He wanted to learn a little bit about stunts. We grew up together in San Bernardino. We've been racing bikes together for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. This is Kurt Stromer.
Hi, everybody.
And he said, he says, I'd really like to learn the business a little bit, see what stunts are all about. So I just figured, not too bad. Welcome to Hollywood, bud. A lot of people mistake the motion picture stuntman for a daredevil. I mean, there's a big difference. I don't want to take anything away from a daredevils because they do some crazy stuff, but that's just it. We do a lot of planning. We go over and over and over and over again until we've got it down. We've got every single safety precaution that we can have before we do the stunt, because you see, this is the difference. We have to go to work the next day. This is what we do for a living. For the most part, they don't have to do that. And I think that's the big difference. A lot of times, they've never even done it before. 99.9% of the stuff that we do in the movie industry, we've done over and over and over again. We may go a little faster in a car. We may go a little higher. But we've done this many, many times. And I think that's the big difference between a movie stuntman and a daredevil. But we do have some nice footage. And let's take a look at some of the original daredevils and some of their hair-raising stunts.
Purposes: to get him places at incredible speed and to provide him with the greatest of all thrills, the defiance of the law of gravity. Today, in an era of jet planes and world-circling hops, the spirit of the old-time barnstormer, who thrived when flying was a novelty, is far from dead. It exists at every air show, when men still bet their lives on their own coordination and the infallibility of a throbbing machine. It exists at air races, too, where pilots make the same wager and sometimes lose. But for the real flavor of barnstorming, we must turn back to the 1910s and early 1920s. The newsreel cameraman, balancing precariously on old chicken wire and canvas crates, was as much a daredevil as the daredevil himself. In those days, rickety planes, many from World War I, were used for every conceivable kind of stunt. Here, high above Manhattan, one becomes a prize ring. What a place to land a haymaker. Bathing beauties, too, took to the airways. Imagine the present Miss America making a dive like this. In this period of flaming youth, no young lady was more daring than 19-year-old Lillian Boyer. Lillian thought nothing of hanging by her feet. Then, as the wind whipped about her, by a single foot. Up there with the earth thousands of feet below and no parachute, Miss Boyer might decide to do anything. She's hurtling into space. Now it's, look, Mom, no hands, as she hangs by her teeth. One of the most popular tricks in the early movies was the transfer from souped-up car to slowed-down plane. At 70 miles an hour, it wasn't easy. Here's a fellow with a lot of drag. On the Barnstormers airliner, the lower berth wasn't too comfortable. When a daredevil went for a joyride, his view of the scenery looked like this. Because the cockpit might be stuffy, he often rode the wheels. As the plane lands with the ground rushing up to meet him, the stuntman waits until the last split second before pulling himself to safety. The ancient spirit of daredevilry, reborn with the birth of the plane, seemed to fan out into other fields as well. Balloon riders preferred to go straight up, to perform their acrobatics dangling from the bottom of a gas-filled bag. These 5 gentlemen chose the quick way down. They use parachutes, but just to prove they're not sissies, they land in the water, heavy gear and all. But everything's under control. They've got one boat to pick them all up. Back in the roaring 20s, daredevils started young. Mildred Unger was 10 years old when she put away her dolls to go joyriding, standing upright on top of a big balloon. On her swaying perch, the little girl headed skyward without even a guy rope to grasp. Californians shuddered as she drifted 2,000 feet above Los Angeles, but Mildred thought the ride was fine. Among the most daring of the daredevils is the inventor. This one has a gadget to make ice skaters rocket propel. Ready, set. Here's one idea that really backfired. But try again. Ouch! Now a French genius with a glider he claims can take off from a standing start. Look at the spot he's picked for the test hop. Bon voyage. Believe it or not, he's not hurt a bit. Oh well, back to the old drawing board. A human being can stand only so much wear and tear unless he's one of the indestructible men. Take this Texan who's dragged in a straitjacket behind a car at 40 miles an hour. The idea is to remove the jacket before friction removes the seat of your pants. Some like it cold. New Jersey's Eddie Jameson's right at home and he's inside an ice cake like a frozen herring for hours at a time. Others prefer it hot. The inside of a steel box can seem pretty airless, unless, of course, you're used to riding the subways. This appears to be going a bit too far. Talk about a hot foot. The cover comes off and out bounces the great Marvelo. A little oven-baked, but otherwise just dandy. Here's another character who likes to play with fire. A trick like this one makes some stuntmen feel good, but it makes him feel like the devil. Meet a latter-day Hercules who has his own remedy for breaking up a chest cold. The men really get into the swing of things. Hercules is hopeful that the slab of concrete breaks before he does. Whoops, hold it. Yes, sir, it's sometimes hot work being an indestructible man. Human flies are perfectly destructible, but they don't seem to know it, as they dangle in midair with their heads in the clouds and their feet in a crack on the side of a skyscraper. This gentleman took his morning warm-up on a narrow cornice while performing for war relief in World War I. It's amazing how much pep you have after just a few exercises. Back in 1917, when it was considered patriotic to wear bunting, J.P. Linthicum got so good at scaling buildings that he tried it blindfolded. While the crowd gasped, Linthicum scrambled up the sheer face of a 14-floor structure entirely by his sense of feel. When some human flies get to the top, the thrills are just beginning. Here's a handstand high above Broadway and a stuntman who loses his balance. Daredevil Daredevil Johnny Reynolds tries a game called Teeter-Totter. Johnny is 39 years old. With luck, he may someday be 40. There's no trick to jumping rope, unless you decide to do it on a plank sticking out of a 20-story building. What a place to go into your dance. If the anchor man stepped off the end of that board, this act would come to a sudden conclusion. Now the blindfold test. Look out! You've got to have a strong mind to pull a stunt like this. At a dizzy height, this fellow breaks into the movies by walking along a narrow, slippery girder on a pair of stilts. Watch a sudden gust of wind blow off the Daredevil's hat and almost blow off the Daredevil. In this era of wonderful nonsense, where mountain goats feared to tread, you could always find a stuntman. This is good for the arches, but not the nerves. Every one of us has the fear of falling from high places. That's why, for spectacular thrills, it's hard to beat the human flies. Bridge acrobats prefer to do their work over the water. This Frenchman picks a span rising 200 feet above the Seine. That's 65 feet higher than the Brooklyn Bridge. He goes through his stunts, then slowly as in a nightmare, his feet slip from the trapeze. Mr. Coffee Nerves isn't even jarred. Ho, ho, ho. Another bridge, another jumper. Notice how the acrobat waves his arms to guide his hurtling body. In a dive like this, you've got to land just right to live. Of all the daredevils, the ones that take the biggest risks are the crack-up champions. They'll tackle anything to the tune of crumbling stone, splintering wood, tearing metal, and shattering glass. Come thundering head-on at full throttle. That's all, brother. That's the top in spills and chill.
Western movies. Falling off a galloping horse, a spectacular chase on horseback. How about a barroom brawl? These are just some of the basic ingredients of a Western. They are also stuntmen's specialties. You can't make a Western without stunt people, and at times it required armies of them. How about comedy? In the early days, Max Sennett, creator of the Keystone Cops, he was a #1 figure. Filmmaking was loose, it was frantic. Much of what happened was spontaneous. For example, when Sennett would hear that a circus was in town or an automobile race was going on, he'd pack up his actors, his crew, put them in the studio car, zoom off, dreaming up the film sequences as they sped away. He believed that for film comedy to be successful, a gag had to be planted, developed, set off in less than 2 minutes.
Let me look at you, Cousin Basil. Oh. Now, don't you go away. Hello? Yes, this is Miss Hopkins. Your Cousin Basil? Well, then who is...
I was just...
How dare you pretend to be my Cousin Basil? I'll teach you a thing or two. You won't. Don't you dare strike me. Taking advantage of a poor, weak, helpless woman.
Boy, his kisses are getting louder.
You horrible person, you...
What happened, kid? Can I help it if I ain't Cousin Basil?
proudest moment in my career, my stunt career anyway, was just happened recently. I was in the East Coast against the West Coast Stunt Challenge. I won the competition. And one of the stunts that we did was called the cannon roll. The cannon roll, I'll explain it to you so you'll understand what it's all about. It's in a car. We had identical cars, and we build cannons. This is done all the time in the movie industry, by the way. We build cannons within the roll cage. The cannon is 12 inches in diameter. We take a piece of telephone pole, cut it off 3.5 feet long. The cannon's about 4 feet long, and we shove the telephone pole up into the cannon. And on top of that, there's 10.5 ounces of powder, black powder, with a detonator, and there's a switch on the dash so you can, what happens when you hit the detonator, it blows the cannon down on the ground while the car is sideways at speed and begins the roll. I'm sure you've seen it a lot in the movies, and the competition was who could get the most rolls. I did 16 rolls, which actually is equal to 8 complete revolutions, and I won the competition, which was great. And it was special to me because the old record had stood for about 10 years. So it was something that people have tried over and over again and weren't able to succeed, and I just got lucky and was able to do it.